I want to go ahead and make a video comparing Oracle versus SQL Server. My disclaimer is that I don't have a lot of experience with Oracle, and so I'm not going to be able to give the kind of analysis you're expecting. What I'm going to do is describe how environments use Oracle and SQL Server differently and how that affects the applications built on them. I passed one Oracle certification test, but 85 Microsoft certification tests in 20 years, many of those pertaining to SQL Server. Most of the ones that were not SQL Server were for .NET, C++, MFC, pre-.NET development environments, but I'm basically a Microsoft guy. Now, my observation of reality is that most database applications, even for large enterprises, are not huge enough to make a difference when discussing performance. Most database applications are departmental or affect a limited number of people within an organization. Not everything is an airline reservation system. SQL Server has enough features to do more than you need to do. That I'd be pretty steadfast in defending. We know Oracle is much more expensive and that DBAs earn more who support SQL Server because it requires a lot more training to make them run and keep them running. It is my belief that DBAs are treated with more professional respect, not personal respect. I mean, people are rude to SQL Server DBAs. But Oracle is held in more esteem, more awe than SQL Server for historical reasons, mostly, in my opinion. Oracle databases are more tightly controlled by Oracle DBAs because they require more skill to create, implement, and maintain. SQL Server databases are very often anything goes for developers. And we're going to see that's even within the same organization. I'd like to give two examples of how companies support both platforms. I've had an engagement, a national tax preparation company. They had two database groups, SQL Server and Oracle. Whether something was Oracle or SQL Server appeared not to be based on much of a rational decision. Maybe I didn't see enough to understand the distinction, but there was one big difference that was recognized and appreciated. If the developers were implementing a new project, they would call the Oracle group and say, could you set us up a new database for this project? And they'd say, fine, well, give us 2 weeks. You called the SQL Server group and said, could you set us up a database for this new project? And they'd say, sure, we can have it by this afternoon unless you need it sooner. Another example I saw was with a modular home manufacturer who also had two database groups. The Oracle database group very tightly managed their databases. Nothing was done except through a DBA because it couldn't be done. In the SQL Server world, the database administrator was much less relied on, and that wasn't because of a decision of his. It was a cultural decision. That's just the way it was. SQL Server was treated differently than Oracle. Whether something was on Oracle or SQL Server was again arbitrary. I did an analysis of their system, and in the presentation I gave, I basically said something probably not as hostile as I'm going to say here, but that they didn't need me to tell them anything. That the SQL Server DBA they had was very highly qualified. No one listened to his opinion, nobody requested his assistance. He was not given the respect that the Oracle database administrators were given. The distinction between these two environments was entirely cultural. They just understood that Oracle was done this way and that SQL Server was done another way. And as long as they maintained that distinction, then SQL Server was going to be a different kind of database than Oracle. It was going to have crappy database design and poorer performance. So those are my thoughts about SQL Server versus Oracle. I'm sure there will be differences. Please recognize that I recognize that these are my opinions based upon my experiences and biases.